Hey, what's up? It's Ben from WOD Prep, and I am here with a special guest today. We are going to help you answer the age-old question of should you scale or should you go RX'd? We're going to define those two terms in a second and then go through a really awesome framework. But first, let's introduce my special guest. I'm joined here by Lindsay. Lindsay, tell me a little bit more about your coaching credentials because she's a better coach than I am.
Thank you for that. I'm Lindsay. I actually work for CrossFit headquarters. I work on their seminar staff, so I teach level 1s and level 2 seminars. And then I also work for a local affiliate head coach there, and I do all of our coach development and an internship program.
And you're a level 3?
Yeah, level 3, yeah.
I remember that. So what we are going to be discussing today, and actually what Lindsay's going to be leading us through, I'm going to be asking questions, is how do we determine predictably whether we should scale or go RX'd? This isn't something that we should just, I don't know, wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to go RX today, right? We need to actually put some thought into it, especially if we're planning to exercise for years and years to come. Myself, I've been doing CrossFit for well over a decade now. The only way I'm still in it and still enjoying it is because I'm making accurate assessments of whether I should scale or RX a given workout. So first, I'll start with the definition, or at least my definitions of scaling and RXing. RX is simply by doing the workout as it is prescribed. That's what RX is. It's like a prescription for medicine. So if I'm doing the workout RX'd, that means I'm doing it the way that it is written, with the weights, with the reps, with the time scheme, all that stuff. I'm doing it the way that it's written. If it says I'm deadlifting 315 pounds 21 times, that means I'm deadlifting 315 pounds 21 times. A scaled workout is where you're taking the prescripted workout and you're modifying in some way, shape, or form to fit your needs. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how or why to do that in a second. There's oftentimes a lot of people when they go to a traditional gym, they're like, I can't do that workout. That's totally fine. A lot of times, CrossFit affiliate programming is not written for the general masses of people, and that's actually by design. Some people don't necessarily do it like that, and some people write for the masses, but it's supposed to be written, or a good coach will tend to write it for the best in their gym, and then you scale for the rest. That's a tough pill to swallow for some people, but as long as you don't get hung up on the idea of I need to RX everything, then you're actually gonna see better results in the gym, we hope. So with that being said, before we move forward and show you the framework that Lindsay's gonna lead us through, if you want to learn how to RX more workouts, stick around to the end of the video. I have a bunch of free training guides I would love to send you. And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you exactly where to get them. You can learn how to RX more workouts by improving your skills. So when it comes to determining whether to scale or RX a workout, Lindsay and I were talking before making this video, and there's basically two main things that you need to consider when it comes to making that decision. And then there's a couple things to talk about within each of those things. What are those two main things to consider?
Yeah, so when you scale for a workout, you want to first scale for intensity, and then you need to then look at the movement.
So intensity, we're going to get into a little bit deeper, is pretty much the way that I view it is if the workout's supposed to be short and fast, then when you modify your workout, you should modify it in a way so that the workout's still short and fast. Or if the workout's long and slow, then when you modify and scale the workout, you want to scale so that your stimulus, your intensity is still long and slow. What we don't want to do, where the common pitfalls are, let's say a workout is designed to be pretty slow, long, and then someone modifies it and they're like, well, I got it done in like 6 minutes, man. I don't see what the big deal was. Then you've missed the intensity piece. And then when it comes to scaling the movements, you guys know I've talked about this a lot in various videos, especially during the open. When we're scaling movements, there's ways that we can do that. We can do it by changing the range of motion. We can change the actual movement, like instead of a run, you could do a row, things like that.
So in CrossFit, we define intensity as exactly equal to power. And this just turns into this mathematical equation that basically gives us like quantifiable results. So everything that we want to scale for intensity is found in that mathematical equation. So it's things like load or volume via distance, reps, and time.
It's really nice to know that we have math backing this framework that we're all so excited about, right? We can actually prove the results and they're repeatable and quantifiable. So when it comes to intensity, there are two main things we need to consider. We have load and volume. What does load mean and how can we scale or modify that?
Yeah, so load is in reference to the amount of weight you're using. So if we use the example of the 315 deadlift that you mentioned earlier, if that's how the workout's written, we can scale that weight down to something that would be appropriate for the given rep scheme that's in that workout. So instead of 315, maybe you're doing 275. So there's three things that you need to consider in volume, and that's going to be distance, reps, or time. So if I have let's say a rep scheme of 15 L pull-ups, which I will use that for our pull-up example now. If I had an example of 15 L pull-ups, which is a strict pull-up with your feet up in an L position, maybe I can't do 15 for the given time domain of whatever the stimulus of the workout is, so I just reduce the repetitions there. Okay, so I can't do 15 in this amount of time, but I could do 12. Awesome, let's do that. As far as distance is concerned, if I had a 400-meter run in a workout on repeat, maybe I just need to reduce the distance, so a 300-meter, a 200-meter, matching probably like right around a 2-minute time frame there. That's how I would reduce that. Now, if we're talking about time, something that can be really tricky here is reducing the volume via time while also keeping everybody in class moving together. So say you have a workout like an AMRAP, so as many reps or rounds as possible. What you could do is have an athlete reduce the volume via time by taking a minute off. You work for a minute, you rest for a minute. That's how you would do that.
I love it. Here's a question for you. So in the L pull-up example,
Yes.
could you modify the distance of the L pull-up?
What do you mean by the distance?
Would reducing the range of motion count as a way to reduce volume?
So I would classify that as no, because what we want is we want to take our joints through their full anatomical end ranges. Okay, I want you to be able to work the pull from the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, all the way to this motion. So reducing the range of motion in that particular movement, I would say no. I would want you to work the full range first, unless there was an injury or something like that. So say how we change an air squat or a squat and we raise them up to like a box or something, or if it was like a GHD sit-up, instead of going all the way to full range of motion, you shorten that range of motion to reduce the amount of wear and tear on the abdominal wall.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So it's, because I was going to use the squat as an example, because with our physical therapy team, that's a common example that we use is we just get people to dial down the range of motion. And also, oftentimes that helps them get the same stimulus of the workout, but we're definitely modifying that volume.
That's something to consider, I think, like more in like the movement, like as far as injuries are concerned, I think, yeah, cool. For changing omitting, yeah.
Sweet. So we've talked about intensity. Again, load and volume. Volume can be modified by distance, reps, and what else?
Time.
And time. With that, now let's move on to movement. Next up, when it comes to scaling or RXing a workout, we need to consider the movement. So we've obviously talked a lot about intensity and how to consider whether or not you can handle the scale or the RX and how to scale down if necessary. But let's talk about the movements. So the movements are exactly what they sound like. They are the actual prescribed movements in the workout. If, let's say, there's deadlifts and ring dips and pull-ups, those are movements that are prescribed that, thanks to CrossFit, have very specific standards for them to be completed as prescribed. So when it comes to deciding whether or not we can do the movement, and then if we can't, how to modify, what do we do here? So
always remember that we're trying to keep as many of the original or intended workout elements the same. So say the ring dip, for example, that is a press this way. If I can't do a ring dip, I wouldn't just automatically take that to a push-up because that changes the movement function. And we want to preserve that function for as long as possible.
And why does it change, like to elaborate a bit more, like what is changed about that function? Like it's chest, right?
Yes and no, right? They are classified as upper body things, but one is a press down and one is a press this way in a different plane. So they're different, right? So what we need to do is we need to figure out ways in which to scale the ring dip, which I'm sure you have many videos on.
Yes, we do. And a classic example of this that might even be better per se as an example is like a lot of gyms will modify the pull-up. Let's say there's pull-ups and they'll modify with ring rows. And would you agree? Those are on two different planes, right? The ring row, I'm pulling horizontally, and the pull-up, I'm pulling vertically, right? So that's an example where we've potentially changed the function a little bit too much, which is why there are certain variations of pull-ups that I much prefer, whether that's standing on a band or whether that's doing negatives or something like that, which keeps that vertical pulling, or sometimes I'll even tell people to do basically like seated lat pull downs because we're pulling vertically. Would that be an example of like trying to keep the function if we do need to scale the workout?
Right, absolutely. You nailed it. Like that is, again, preserving the function of the pull this way as best as possible. But we'll reserve that for the thing that we're going to do next.
Awesome. So long story short, if you can do the movement, do it. That's, all you need to modify if you decide to scale the workout is the intensity, but you can keep the actual movements within the workout. Just to reiterate this a little bit more, one of my favorite things to do for athletes who maybe can only do 1 or 2 ring muscle ups. They see a workout that has a ton of ring muscle ups in it, and they immediately go to, oh, I need to do pull-ups and ring dips instead. And I come in and I say, no, keep the ring muscle ups. Just modify
Transitions.
right? Modify the transitions or modify the reps, right? So we scale down the intensity, but you still get to keep the movement. And that sometimes works really well for athletes who always default to just completely throwing out the movements that were written in the workout. So moving forward, we've talked about how to modify the movement and maintain the function. What else can we do?
So say there's an injury or something like the pull-up example, if you can't hang from the pull-up bar, then the ring row would be something that we would do next. So you're gonna exhaust all efforts as far as scaling for intensity and then the movement function, and then you will change or maybe omit that thing depending on what we have going on. So again, a ring row would be a great example. Say I got a bum shoulder, I could do a single arm ring row, maybe even a bent over row on the good wing to modify for the pull-up. So just playing around with that injury-wise is typically what we're looking at there.
Okay, and then I know the very, very last thing that we want to do is like omit it completely. Right?
Yeah.
And ideally, a good coach, hopefully, will be able to exhaust all of these options, changing the intensity, modifying the actual movement, trying to retain the function. Like there's a lot of things that we can do. There's so many different variations of all these awesome movements that we do here inside of a CrossFit gym that the very last thing could be actually just omitting or completely throwing it out of the window, okay? So I hope that this video helped you understand or at least get a clearer picture of should you scale or should you go RX'd? If going RX causes you to completely lose the intensity that was supposed to be in that workout, then you should scale to maintain the intensity because intensity is the primary thing that we're focused on.
It's the driving force that gets us what we want.
Right? Intensity is how we get our results. Once we've kind of checked that box, then we move on to actually modifying the movements. And that's the hierarchy, that's the framework that I know that they teach, which is at level one. Level one is where this framework is taught. So I hope that you like that. In the comments below, please let me know what's one movement that you need to scale and how, based on these factors, could you scale, whether that's the actual movement with maintaining the function, or how could you change the intensity? So please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see some brainstorming. That is your question of the day. And then last but not least, if you are someone who wants to RX more workouts, believe it or not, I can help. Just go to wadprep.com or click the link in the top comment or the description below. That's going to take you to our homepage. And on the homepage, you're going to see a drop-down menu where you can actually choose which movements you want me to help you with completely free. All you have to do is enter your name and email, and I will send you a completely free training guide associated with that skill. So you can't do pull-ups, I can help. If you can't do ring muscle-ups, I can help. If you can't do something else, I can probably help, and I will help you for free. So go do that now. And then last but not least, thumbs up if you like Lindsay, thumbs down if you hate me, and then make sure you smash the subscribe button because we have a lot more videos that we're actually shooting today that are coming to you soon.
Coach, come back. Come back. Where are you going? What am I supposed to do? It's such a long way down. Coach, don't.